Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive. We're diving into something pretty interesting today.
Yeah.
We're cracking open Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It is, and it's that book that I feel like everyone from CEOs to, ambitious folks
Yeah.
have been studying for years now, just to understand how power really works.
Right, and I think the big thing is that this doesn't really come with like a good or bad label, you know?
Right.
It's more about analyzing the ideas it presents, not necessarily like endorsing them.
Yeah.
It's kind of like dissecting an engine.
Yeah.
Understanding how all the parts work doesn't mean you have to like build a race car with it.
Yeah, or a battering ram.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
So Greene gives us 48 of these laws, each of them with their own kind of take on grabbing power, keeping power, even deflecting power.
Great.
And we've chosen a few for this deep dive that we think are particularly interesting.
Yeah, and some of the stories Greene uses to illustrate these love are pretty wild.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
He doesn't just throw abstract theories at you.
No.
He really brings them to life with these historical examples that make the concepts super memorable.
Absolutely. So first up, we're diving into appearances.
Okay.
Greene really argues that projecting the right image is absolutely key in this game of power.
Yeah, and he actually dedicates 2 laws to this idea.
Okay.
Law 6 is court attention at all cost, which is all about standing out from the crowd,
Yeah.
creating a captivating persona.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Law 25, recreate yourself.
Okay.
Which suggests that you can craft a new identity to attract attention and shape how people perceive you.
So kind of building your own personal brand.
Exactly. And a great example of this is Count Lustig, this con man who was so good at cultivating an aura of mystery and extravagance that he managed to sell the Eiffel Tower.
Wait a minute. He sold the Eiffel Tower.
Not once, but twice.
How is that even possible?
Well, it's a classic con, really.
Yeah.
It plays on people's desires, like exclusivity and believing in a secret insider.
Yeah.
So Lustig would wine and dine these potential buyers at the fanciest hotel in Paris,
Right.
dropping hints about his connections, making them feel like they were in on something huge.
Oh, so it wasn't about the tower itself.
Yeah.
It was about the illusion of access and power that he created.
Exactly. He understood that in the game of power, perception is often reality.
Right.
And what better way to project an image of power than by appearing to own a national landmark?
That is seriously clever.
Right.
Although completely unethical, of course.
Of course.
But then you have someone like Lola Montez, who took kind of a different approach to manipulating her image.
Right.
This Irish dancer and actress, she used calculated theatrics and charm to captivate these powerful men.
Yeah, even becoming the mistress of King Ludwig of Bavaria.
Oh, wow. So she was playing on a different kind of power dynamic than using her charm and, well, let's just say assets to influence men in positions of authority.
Exactly. One of her most famous tactics involved staging a horse fall right in front of her intended target,
Oh, wow.
instantly playing the damsel in distress.
I mean, it sounds comical.
It does.
I guess it worked.
It did, especially on men who were already predisposed to her charms.
Of course.
She understood that power can be wielded in these subtle, indirect ways,
Yeah.
often by appealing to people's pre-existing desires and vulnerabilities.
So both Lustig and Montez, what we're seeing here is that crafting this image, whether it's through, calculated aloofness or strategic vulnerability,
Right.
can be a really powerful tool for manipulating perceptions and influencing others.
Exactly. They exemplify the idea that power is a performance.
Right.
And mastering the art of self-presentation is crucial in shaping how others perceive you and your influence.
Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about some of the laws that are a little more strategic, maybe even a bit sneaky.
Yeah, well, they definitely highlight the importance of indirect influence.
Yeah.
So we have Law 7, which encourages you to get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit.
The classic delegation strategy, but with a twist.
Right.
This is about more than just getting things done efficiently. It's about leveraging other people's talent to advance your own agenda.
Exactly. And then there's Law 26, keep your hands clean,
Okay.
which advises using scapegoats or intermediaries to distance yourself from any potential fallout.
So maintaining a spotless reputation
Right.
while still getting what you want, even if it means letting someone else take the blame.
Think about Yellow Kid Whale, this legendary con artist.
Right, yeah.
He was a master of these strategies.
Right.
He would orchestrate these elaborate schemes where he'd appear as a harmless bystander, encouraging others to make moves that ultimately benefited him.
Didn't he use a friend, like a seemingly harmless friend,
He did.
to lure a wealthy target into a rigged boxing match?
Exactly.
And his friend was like the patsy,
Unknowing
while
nerd.
Weil walked away with all the profits.
When the scheme unraveled, guess who took the fall?
The friend.
Of course, leaving Weil's reputation intact,
Wow.
ready for his next move.
So both of these laws advocate for a more subtle approach to power, one that avoids direct confrontation and often operates behind the scenes.
It's about understanding that influence can be exerted in subtle ways, often by manipulating circumstances and leveraging other people's actions to your advantage.
It's fascinating and also kind of unsettling if you think about how these strategies might be playing out in our own lives without us even realizing it.
That's the thing about power dynamics.
Yeah.
They're often operating beneath the surface.
Right.
And understanding these undercurrents can be incredibly valuable, both for protecting yourself and for leveraging those same strategies to achieve your own goals.
Okay, but I have to ask,
Yeah.
is there ever a situation where these laws cross a line? I mean, using people as scapegoats or taking credit for their work, that seems pretty unethical.
You know, it's definitely important to think about the ethical implications of these strategies.
Yeah,
Greene himself doesn't really offer a moral judgment.
right.
He simply presents them as tools that have been used throughout history to gain and maintain power. Ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide how they choose to apply this knowledge.
That's a good point. It's like learning about a powerful weapon.
Right.
You need to understand its potential for harm
Yeah,
as well as its potential for good.
exactly. Knowledge is power.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the choices we make with that knowledge that truly define our character.
Okay, so next up, we're diving into some laws that delve into the world of human psychology.
Okay.
Greene talks about using selective honesty, appealing to self-interest, even weaponizing generosity as strategic tools.
Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. Is a really interesting one.
Yeah.
The idea is that a single act of sincerity can mask a multitude of deceptions.
So it's not about being completely honest.
Yeah.
It's about strategically revealing certain truths to gain someone's trust and make them more vulnerable to manipulation.
Think about P.T. Barnum, the legendary showman.
Okay.
He understood that people crave entertainment,
Yeah.
and they're often willing to be deceived as long as they're enjoying the show.
Yeah, he was famous for his elaborate hoaxes and staged events.
Right.
But he would also strategically reveal some of his tricks.
He did.
To create a sense of transparency.
Yeah.
But ironically, that made his audience trust him even more.
Exactly. He played on their desire for a good story, their willingness to suspend disbelief.
It's like he was saying, look, I'm being honest with you about some of my tricks.
Yeah.
So you can trust me with the rest.
And it worked brilliantly.
It did.
It really highlights that even a small amount of transparency can build trust and make people more susceptible to your influence.
Okay, so then there's Law 13. When asking for help, appeal to people's self-interest, never to their mercy or gratitude.
Yeah, this one's pretty relevant, I think, in everyday life.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a brilliant insight into human motivation.
Yeah.
We're all inherently driven by self-interest.
Right.
And appealing to that fundamental desire is way more effective than relying on someone's sense of obligation or compassion.
So instead of asking for a favor, you frame your request in a way that benefits the other party.
Exactly like Joseph Duveen, an art dealer who understood this perfectly.
Yeah.
He wanted to sell these expensive paintings
Mhm.
to these wealthy collectors, but they were running out of wall space.
Oh, so what did he do?
Well, he did something much more strategic.
Okay.
He recognized that these wealthy clients like Andrew Mellon were concerned about inheritance taxes
Okay.
and wanted to secure their legacy.
Right.
So what did Duveen do?
Yeah. What was his play?
He helped establish the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C.,
Wow.
persuading Mellon to donate his collection and avoid those hefty taxes.
That is brilliant.
Right.
So Mellon got to secure his legacy
Yeah.
and gain this tax benefit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Duveen strategically positioned himself as this trusted advisor and secured a buyer for his paintings.
Precisely. It was a win-win situation.
Yeah.
Driven by a deep understanding of human motivation and the art of framing requests to align with the other party's self-interest.
This is all reminding me that power dynamics are happening everywhere. even in the most mundane interactions.
Absolutely. Whether we're aware of it or not, we're constantly navigating these intricate webs of influence,
Yeah.
both as agents and as targets of these power plays.
So it's important not only to understand these strategies, but also to be aware of when they're being used on us.
I completely agree. The more we understand about the mechanics of power,
Yeah,
the better equipped we are to navigate all the complexities of human relationships and achieve our goals,
absolutely.
all while staying true to our own values and principles.
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap up part 1 of our deep dive into the 48 laws of power.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll unravel even more of these intriguing and sometimes unsettling strategies for gaining and maintaining influence.
See you next time.
Yeah, see you then. Welcome back to our deep dive into the 48 laws of power.
Yeah, we're picking up where we left off, exploring more of these strategies that Greene lays out.
Last time we looked at how appearances can be used to project power,
Yeah.
as well as the power of delegation and appealing to self-interest.
It's amazing how these laws apply not just to these, historical figures, but to everyday situations as well.
Absolutely. Greene argues that understanding these power dynamics is essential for anyone who wants to navigate the complexities of human relationships.
Okay, so what's next in our list of power plays?
Well, Greene dedicates a few laws to the concept of deception,
Okay.
arguing that it's an inherent part of power dynamics.
So he's not saying that everyone should just go around lying and manipulating people.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But rather that we need to be aware of the subtle ways that deception can be used to influence us. And he even suggests that those who claim to be above such tactics are often the most skilled deceivers of all.
Okay. That's a bit unsettling, but I can see how it's true.
One of the laws that really highlights this is Law 10, infection. Avoid the unhappy and unlucky.
Okay, that sounds a bit ominous. Is he suggesting that we should just avoid all negative people?
Not necessarily. It's more about recognizing that negativity can be contagious. Associating with people who are chronically unhappy or unlucky can drain your energy and undermine your own power.
It's like that saying, misery loves company.
Exactly. And Greene argues that this isn't just about mood or outlook. It's about recognizing that negativity can create a self-fulfilling prophecy,
Yeah.
impacting your decisions and ultimately your success.
So it's not about being heartless or abandoning our friends when they're going through a tough time,
Right.
but rather about being mindful of the company we keep and the energy we surround ourselves with.
Precisely. And on the flip side, surrounding yourself with positive, optimistic people can have a tremendously uplifting effect.
Yeah.
Their success and resilience can inspire you and propel you forward.
Okay, that makes sense. So what's another law that deals with deception?
Law 33. Discover each man's thumbscrew. Find the weakness through which you can manipulate is a particularly potent one.
Okay, that sounds almost Machiavellian.
It is about recognizing that everyone has vulnerabilities, insecurities, or desires that can be exploited.
So it's like figuring out what makes people tick,
Yeah.
what motivates them, what scares them, what are their deepest ambitions.
Exactly. And once you've identified these pressure points, you can apply just the right amount of leverage to influence their behavior.
It sounds a bit manipulative,
It can be.
but I can see how this could be used in negotiation, for example.
Absolutely. A skilled negotiator might research their opponent's past, deals their financial pressures, even their hobbies and interests.
Wow.
All of this information can be used to anticipate their moves and find ways to sway their decisions.
So it's not just about exploiting weaknesses.
No.
It's also about understanding their desires and finding ways to align your goals with their aspirations.
Precisely. It's a subtle form of persuasion rather than brute force.
Okay, so this law is about playing a strategic game,
Right.
understanding the players and knowing when to make your move.
Exactly. And speaking of strategy, Greene also emphasizes the importance of timing and knowing when to hold back.
Which brings us to Law 36. Disdain things you cannot have. Ignoring them is the best revenge.
Yeah.
That feels particularly relevant in today's world of social media envy.
It's a reminder that fixating on what you lack can be incredibly draining and counterproductive.
It's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others.
Right.
Especially when we're constantly bombarded with images of perfect lives on Instagram.
Yeah, and this constant craving for what we don't have can lead to feelings of inadequacy and resentment, ultimately undermining our own power.
So Greene is suggesting that the best way to deal with these feelings is to just ignore the things that we can't have.
Yeah.
And focus on what we can control.
Exactly. Shift your perspective and recognize that true power lies in mastering your own desires rather than being consumed by them.
It's like that old saying, comparison is the thief of joy.
Yeah, and the thief of power as well.
Yeah.
By focusing on your own goals and accomplishments, you not only diminish the power of external validation, but also project a sense of self-assurance. That can be incredibly attractive and influential.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So what's another law that deals with this idea of controlling perception?
Law 37. Create compelling spectacles. Appeal to the senses to stir up awe and wonder. Highlights the power of sensory experiences.
Okay.
To capture attention and create a lasting impression.
I can see this playing out in everything from marketing and advertising to politics and religion.
Absolutely. Think about those epic Super Bowl halftime shows with
Yeah.
pyrotechnics, elaborate costumes, massive dance numbers.
Or the grand ceremonies and rituals of ancient civilizations.
Exactly. These spectacles are designed to overwhelm the senses and create a sense of awe and wonder in the audience.
And this sense of awe can translate into a perception of power.
Absolutely. When you can evoke strong emotions and create these memorable experiences, you elevate yourself above the mundane and establish a sense of authority.
This makes me think of historical figures like Louis XIV of France, who used the grandeur of Versailles with its opulent gardens and elaborate court rituals to project an image of absolute power.
Precisely. Louis XIV understood the power of spectacle to reinforce his authority and create a sense of distance and reverence between himself and his subjects.
So it's not just about what you do, but how you present it.
Right?
The way you package your ideas and actions can have a huge impact on how they are perceived.
Exactly, and that's why Greene emphasizes the importance of understanding the power of imagery, symbolism, and sensory experiences in shaping perceptions and influencing behavior.
It's amazing how these seemingly abstract concepts can be applied to so many different aspects of life.
That's the beauty of Greene's work.
Yeah.
He provides this framework for understanding the dynamics of power that transcends time and context.
Okay, so far we've explored laws that deal with deception timing and controlling perception.
Right.
We've seen how these strategies can be used to manipulate others, but also how understanding them can help us protect ourselves from being manipulated.
Absolutely.
It's all about being aware of these subtle power dynamics that are at play in our everyday lives.
Exactly. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore even more of Greene's laws, delving into the realms of strategic thinking, adaptability, and understanding your opponents.
I'm already intrigued to see what other insights he has to offer. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power. And I got to say, these last few laws, these are some of the most thought-provoking.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From appearances and deception to strategic timing and spectacle.
But Greene doesn't stop there. He goes even deeper, offering insights into strategic thinking, understanding your opponents, and the importance of adapting. And he emphasizes that we need to be keen observers of human nature, to be able to anticipate our opponent's moves and even use their strengths against them.
Exactly.
Okay, so give me an example of what that looks like in practice.
Well, Law 14, pose as a friend, work as a spy, is a perfect illustration of that.
Okay.
It's about gathering intel, observing your rivals closely, and understanding their motivations and vulnerabilities.
So it sounds like something out of a spy movie.
Yeah.
You know, infiltrating the enemy's inner circle to gain their trust while secretly gathering information.
Right, and while that might seem a bit extreme for everyday life, the underlying principle is incredibly valuable.
So even if we're not dealing with international espionage, we can still benefit from being more observant and strategic in our interactions.
Absolutely. Whether you're negotiating a business deal or navigating a complex social situation, understanding your opponent's perspective and anticipating their tactics can give you a big advantage.
So it's about asking the right questions, reading between the lines, and gathering information both directly and indirectly.
Precisely. And using that knowledge to make informed decisions and strategic moves.
Okay, so it's like playing chess. You got to be thinking several moves ahead.
Exactly. And speaking of strategy, Greene also stresses the importance of choosing your battles wisely.
Which brings us to Law 19. Know who you're dealing with. Do not offend the wrong person. That seems particularly relevant these days with social media callouts and cancel culture.
It's a cautionary tale about understanding the power dynamics before taking action.
Not everyone reacts to provocation in the same way. Some people are quick to forgive, others, they hold grudges forever.
Exactly. And offending someone who is petty, vindictive, or in a position to harm you can have serious consequences.
So it's about assessing the risks and the potential rewards before engaging in any kind of confrontation.
Right. Sometimes the best strategy is to simply walk away.
You know, it reminds me of that saying, it's better to be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt.
Exactly. Discretion is often the better part of valor. Knowing when to hold back can be a powerful form of self-preservation.
Okay, so we've talked about understanding our opponents, but what about understanding ourselves?
Well, Greene also dedicates a lot to that.
Yeah.
The importance of recognizing our own limitations and knowing when to adapt.
So that's Law 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
It's a reminder that expectations are often higher for those who succeed someone who was already successful. You're constantly being compared to your predecessor.
Right. It's like trying to fill the shoes of, I don't know, Michael Jordan or Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
You're always going to be measured against their accomplishments.
Exactly. And Greene suggests that the best way to navigate this is to avoid those direct comparisons
Okay.
and instead focus on creating your own unique path.
So it's not about trying to outdo your predecessor, but about finding your own strengths and leveraging them to achieve success.
Precisely. Times change, contexts shift. What worked for them might not work for you. You need to adapt, innovate, and find your own way to stand out.
It's about carving your own niche, even if you're working within an established framework or tradition.
Exactly. Finding ways to differentiate yourself, highlight your unique skills, and create your own legacy.
So it's about recognizing that change is inevitable and embracing the opportunity to evolve.
Absolutely. And speaking of change, Greene's final law, Law 45, preach the need for change but never reform too much at once, offers some valuable insights on how to manage transitions effectively.
Yeah, that seems especially relevant today.
It's a reminder that humans are creatures of habit. We resist change even when it's in our best interest.
So it's not about making radical, sweeping changes overnight, but introducing gradual, incremental adjustments that people can adapt to over time.
Exactly. True change takes time, patience, and a deep understanding of human psychology.
It's about building a coalition of support, addressing concerns, and creating a sense of ownership among those who will be impacted by the change.
Precisely. By acknowledging the need for change while also respecting the natural resistance to it, you can navigate this delicate balance and increase your chances of success.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into the 48 laws of power. From the importance of appearances and deception to the art of strategic thinking and adaptability, these laws offer a fascinating glimpse into the dynamics of power.
And as we wrap up, it's important to remember that these laws are not a moral compass.
Right.
They're tools to be understood, analyzed, and applied with careful consideration.
Absolutely. The decision of how to wield this knowledge rests with each individual.
It's about using this understanding of power dynamics to achieve your goals while staying true to your own values and principles.
Well said. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep those minds sharp and those observations keen.
And remember, knowledge is power, but it's the choices we make with that knowledge that truly define who we are.